Here we go. Nebraska has one of the biggest games of the season this Friday. The number 22 Huskers will be taking on the number 24 ranked Illinois for a top 25 showdown. So in today's video, I'm going to preview that ball game, what you can expect from Illinois, what are some keys to the game for Nebraska, and so much more. So really quick, we have a lot to discuss. Big time game this Friday. If you are excited, I know I am, hit that like button. And hey, if you're new to the channel or a returning viewer, make sure to subscribe. I have the best family here on Nebraska YouTube, and I post daily Husker football content. So if you're a diehard fan of this program, please subscribe. You will not regret it. But without further ado, let's get into it, talking about this game, number 22 versus number 24, Nebraska versus Illinois. So if you told me a couple weeks ago that both of these squads would be ranked going into this matchup, I would be shocked. I wouldn't believe you. But here we are. Nebraska looks legit. Illinois looks very good as well, coming off a couple big wins. So let's talk about it. Starting off with Illinois, Bret Bielema, of course, is their head coach going into year 4. As the Illinois head coach, he has been 2-1 versus Nebraska, and so far this season, 3-0 with wins versus Eastern Illinois, Kansas. That was a big-time victory, and then last week against Central Michigan. So we know what Bret Bielema is as a head coach, defensive-minded, previously with Wisconsin and Arkansas, and they're going to try to establish that defense against the Cornhuskers. So let's talk about their offense first, though, because honestly, it's a pretty good unit for the Illini, the best we've seen in a while. Starting off with their quarterback, Luke Altmaier, for the second year in a row. Throughout 3 games, he's had 650 yards passing for 6 touchdowns. Here's the kicker. 0 interceptions and 70% from the field. So Luke Altmaier, very decisive, very smart quarterback, very poised in the pocket, and he's been looking really good. Honestly, one of the best quarterbacks in all of the Big Ten period so far, and it should be noted, he can run a little bit. He can get outside the pocket, make some plays as well. So Luke Altmaier, the best quarterback Nebraska's played besides Shedeur Sanders, but definitely a different quarterback. He's very accurate, very smart. Nebraska needs to wreak havoc, get to him a couple times, and force some bad passes. But I'm impressed with Luke Altmaier, and I was impressed watching that Kansas game, how he conducted himself. This passing attack, pretty good for the Illini. We'll get to that. But let's start with the running attack. What's going on there in that running back room? Well, Nebraska played a 6'4" and 6'3" running back last week versus Northern Iowa. They play a 6'3" running back once again here versus Illinois. Caden Feagin is that player, listed at 6'3", 250 pounds. You heard me correctly. Big time bruiser running back. He's going to run over you type of guy. In the first couple of games, he had 170 yards total, 4 yards a carry, and 3 touchdowns. So Feagin's, man, he's big, and honestly, he could exploit Nebraska's defense because Northern Iowa, they did a pretty good job running against Nebraska with those big backs. But also, Illinois has a little bit of a running back by committee situation going. They have Khalil Valentine and Josh McCray, both very shifty running backs as well. So their running back room, one of the better in the Big Ten, if not the country. They average 150 yards a game on the ground in Nebraska. That's going to be one of the biggest points of this game. How can you stop that rushing attack? But if that doesn't work for the Illinois, they honestly have a pretty good passing attack too. So we talked about Luke Altmaier. But let's go to the wide receivers. Pretty sneaky good receiver room here. They're led by Pat Bryant, who's a 6'3" target. In the first couple of games, he had 240 yards receiving and 4 touchdowns. So, again, he's just been all over. And then also they have Zachary Franklin, who's only 6'1", but 200 yards and 16 receptions as well to his name. So, very good receiver core. And talking about that offensive line, pretty decent. Nothing to write home about necessarily. But, again, one of the better in the Big Ten. Their entire offense, they can do it in a multitude of ways. I'm impressed. I was impressed versus Kansas. I was impressed versus Central Michigan. I really like what they bring to the table. But we know what they're going to want to do. They're going to want to run the football, establish that, and then try to set up the pass just like we are. So we got to shut that down. So watch out for this offense because, honestly, I'm a little scared by it, and we'll talk about that as the video progresses. Let's go to their defense because that's always been a focal point for Bret Bielema, again, making a very good defense in the Big Ten. Now, a couple stats I'm going to throw at you throughout their first 3 games. They average giving up around 300 yards a game. That's 47th best in America, so nothing crazy. But they've only given up 13 points per game. That's the 22nd best in the country. So, again, not as good as their Illinois defense used to be with Ryan Walters as their defensive coordinator, but still pretty decent. Going to their defensive line, not awesome, especially, again, what it used to be. They only average 2 sacks a game. They're led by Dennis Bricks and Tara Edwards. So not really too impressive in the pass rush, but honestly pretty good stopping the run. I was impressed with their abilities versus Kansas, but I'm not really worried about them getting to Raiola, specifically after a very good performance from this offensive line versus the Panthers last week. Talking about the linebacker core for Illinois, veteran group, basically all juniors. Gabe Jacobs is a guy I want you guys to remember. He's a freak athlete, very similar to Mekhi Bayer for Nebraska, where, again, he's just going to fly over the field, make tackles. And, again, really good linebacker core. Again, nothing to write home about. That's a common theme about this team, but it's just good enough. And that's all that it takes. But you know what's really good from this Illinois defense? Their secondary, I would say, is elite. I'd say it's top 20, top 10 in the country. In 3 games, they have 6 interceptions, led by Xavier Scott. He has 3 of those interceptions. Miles Scott, they're not related by any means, but he also has 2 interceptions. So they force INTs. They force takeaways. And they force, again, bad passes from these quarterbacks. So, again, I've been really impressed with their secondary. They also have Matthew Bailey, who plays safety, who very good tackler. They just have a little bit of everything. So this defense really impresses you in that secondary department. I think Raiola could struggle. This might be the game where Raiola throws that interception. I know he had one versus Northern Iowa, but this might be one where he actually throws a bad pass and it gets picked off. And I'll tell you what, Illinois could take any of those INTs to the house with how athletic their secondary is. So I want you to be concerned about it because it is a very good unit for Illinois. So, again, definitely we need to talk about that a little bit more as the week progresses. So watch out for that secondary. All right. So, in general, this Illinois team is pretty darn good, the best we've seen since that 2022 squad. The offense is solid. The defense just does enough. That secondary is good. I wouldn't call their defense elite, but I call it very, very solid. I'm concerned about this game, and I'm going to wait to give you guys my predictions until that Thursday video where I give you all my predictions. So wait for that. But I'm going to give you my keys to the game for Nebraska. How does Nebraska win this football game against a very talented Illinois team that I don't believe it's a shoo-in for us to win? I think I'd put it at a 50-50, to be completely honest with you. First thing we need to do to win, run the darn football. That's the key for every game. Dante Dowden needs to get going. Get him the football. Get Emmett Johnson the football. I thought he played very well versus Northern Iowa. Nebraska, their rushing offense is only 39th in the country. We need to bump those numbers up a little bit. So we need to establish a run, need to get that going. That's paramount in every single victory. Number 2, shut down Luke Altmaier. I trust our run defense. I think we can shut down that. I'm not sure if I can. I'm sure we're going to shut down their pass attack. So we got to shut down Luke Altmaier. He's accurate. He's poised. Gets to the quarterback a couple times. Get him in the dirt. This defensive line will benefit from Jamari Butler coming back. So that's going to be a big focal point. How can you shut down this passing attack? Because I got some good receivers and I got a good quarterback in Altmaier. But I trust our run stopping at this point in time. I think we'll be fine. Third key to the game. Make your darn field goals. There's going to be a field goal in this game where Alvano lines up for a critical one that he needs to hit. And you better hope he does just that. I'm scared. I'm scared about this kicking situation. I know you are too. Make your field goals. That's a big key. Fourth key, no penalties. No offsides, no holding, no block in the back, no false start. I don't want to see any of that. We need to play clean football because when you play Big Ten squads like Illinois, they're going to take advantage of every mistake you make. Can't do that this week. No more games. Let's play clean. Let's play disciplined because that's what we believe Matt Rhule brings to the table as a head coach. Disciplinary head coach. Let's show it. Let's see it today. Let's see it versus Illinois. Last key to the game. Not only should Nebraska start fast. Okay, we have scored on every single opening drive throughout our first 3 games. We did it versus UTEP. We did it versus Colorado. And we did it versus UNI. So not only should you start fast again, score on your first drive, but stay consistent. Too many times Nebraska's looked great in those first 2 or 3 drives and then stalled out in the second half. We cannot do that. There's a real possibility we go into halftime down or we go into halftime tied. Okay, what happens if this offense stalls out in the second half when we're tied and Illinois' offense doesn't? Well, I'll tell you what happens. We'll lose. We need to be consistent. We need to find answers. Marcus Satterfield, I'm calling on you to call a better game. I'm calling on this offensive line to block better at times. I'm calling for this receiver core to get open more. It's a group effort. This offense needs to be consistent through all 4 quarters. What a big game. Number 22 versus number 24. Nebraska's favored by honestly too much. I saw a line floating out about Nebraska by 8, Nebraska by 9. I think it should be Nebraska by 3, to be completely honest with you. I'm not sold on Nebraska just yet. I don't know how good we actually are. Chances are you feel the exact same way. You think we're good, but you're not 100% sure. This game will reveal everything. How good is Nebraska really? We will know by Friday night. Big time game. I'm excited. I hope you are too. All right, guys, let me know down below. What is your big thing that you're looking forward to versus Illinois? One thing you're scared about from the Illini? And hey, if you made this far in the video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. And as always, folks, go big red, go Matt Rhule, and see you in the next one.